The United States says it's carried out what it's calling defensive strikes against Iranian military targets. It's the second U.S. strike this week, despite a ceasefire. U.S. Central Command says it shot down 4 attack drones that posed what it calls a threat near the Strait of Hormuz. And that the U.S. military also hit a ground control station near Bandar Abbas that it says was about to launch a 5th drone. Well, details of the strikes emerged after a cabinet meeting held by President Donald Trump late on Wednesday. He said there's still work to be done on reaching a deal with Iran, but he also stressed the Strait of Hormuz will be open to everyone and that no country will control the waterway.
We have the strongest military anywhere in the world, as you know. You saw what we did with Venezuela. That worked out very quickly, and we're doing really equally as well with, but again, people don't want to write about it, with Iran. Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard says in response it's targeted the U.S. airbase from where the attack near Bandar Abbas was launched. Kuwait, for its part, says it responded to missile and drone attacks without saying where the attacks had come from. Resul Serdar is following developments. He's live for us from the Iranian capital. So first of all, Resul, take us through what Iranian officials are saying about how today's engagements unfolded.
Well, so officials here are simply saying that 4 vessels, including one of the U.S. ships, so they turned their radars off and attempted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Then the IRGC naval forces asked them to identify themselves, and there was no response. Then IRGC fired the warning shots. And then the United States Armed Forces, they have targeted 3 locations close to Bandar Abbas airport. So Iranians are saying there are no casualties, no material damage as a result. However, the IRGC retaliated by targeting the origin of the U.S. attack. So based on the statements, so they're not specifically given any name of a country or the name of the U.S. airbase that they claim that they have attacked. However, so they say a warning that if such attacks are repeated, then their retaliation is going to be even more decisive. So we are seeing a clear escalation here, Sami, since the beginning of the ceasefire on 8th of April on. This is the 3rd time that the American and Iranian military forces are militarily engaged. But this is the first time that Iran is confirming since the beginning of the ceasefire that it has targeted a U.S. military airbase. So the big question, of course, is whether now, as militarily they're targeting each other and including a U.S. airbase, so whether the ceasefire is still holding or not. When we look at the statements, so neither side is saying that the ceasefire is collapsed. Both sides are accusing each other of violating the ceasefire. However, what we can see is that it's an extremely delicate situation, and particularly considering the fact that in the last 48 hours, this is the 2nd incident that's happening, so it's making the diplomatic engagement extremely difficult.
And Resul, talk us through the concern that might be building over the impact of U.S. sanctions on this new Iranian body that was established to coordinate passage through the Straits of Hormuz.
So, Sami, here, Iranians simply announcing the establishment of a body that is supposed to be in charge of managing the Strait of Hormuz complicated the matter here. And now that the Americans are coming with new sanctions, it's further making the situation further complicated. So just remember, right after the ceasefire, Iranians announced that they have established a new body, which is called the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. And simply, according to the new maritime regime that Iran is suggesting, any ships whether commercial or military, have to coordinate their passage with IRGC, simply reporting what they are carrying, the origin country, the final destination, and also they have to go through the lanes that were designated by the IRGC. So, and they need to ask for the clearance, and once they get the clearance, then they need to make the payments to the Iranian forces or that authority that was established. So Iranians are insisting that there's a new maritime regime, and this body is responsible in managing that new maritime regulations here. Now the United States coming up and saying, well, that authority that was established by Iran is now being sanctioned. So the complication is there, Sami. Now Iranian IRGC is saying that any commercial vessels, if not in coordination with us, we are not going to allow them to pass. Then if the commercial vessels do not coordinate with the IRGC, they're not going to pass. If they coordinate with the IRGC, with this body, they are going to be considered violating the U.S. sanctions. This is quite a huge dilemma for the ships and, of course, for the international maritime trade through the Strait of Hormuz, Sami.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much. Resul Serdar reporting from the Iranian capital.